decision is split too. That would mean that it turns to the class to break it. Also keep in mind your main speeches are 5 to 6 minutes long, meaning that it's okay if you finish at 5 minutes. You don't have to use the whole 6 minutes. So, if you're taking questions and you just want to be done with it, that's cool. 5 minutes is a minimum. Step lunch. The desk slap means you have 1 minute left, or that you've reached 5 minutes.
Okay.
So the people that are presenting today, are we doing one flow aside from, what was this count as?
Right, so you flow the debate. You're going to have one, you're going to flow one other debate. But definitely want to take good notes.
Yes.
All right, cool. So let's hear it for the Prime Minister coming up with a speech. Now, please take 6 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Professor. Classmates, thank you for being here and being part of this debate. Today, I'm going to take the pro side of if the United States government should strengthen the gun law. I'm going to start with the status quo. The United States in recent times has witnessed a series of tragic incidents of gun owners turning their weapons onto innocent people. The latest one, where a lone attacker went on a shooting spree, killing 26 people, including 20 children, at the Connecticut Elementary School. Under President Obama's leadership, several senators have proposed a stricter gun control law, which includes universal background checks for people trying to buy guns and restoring a ban on military-style assault weapons. The background check system helps not only to keep guns out of the hands of those who should not have them, but will also help identify and punish individuals trying to illegally obtain guns. Nationally, about 2.1 million guns transactions have been denied with background checks from the signing of the Handgun Violence Protection Act in 1993 to 2010. I'm going to start mentioning the first harm. Thousands of people die every year due to gun-related crimes. This number could be reduced if the total number and availability of firearms are reduced. Currently, about 40% of the weapons sold in the United States are done through private transactions that do not require a background check, so virtually anyone can buy a gun here with no problems. A study shows that in the United States, more than 30,000 people are killed by firearms each year, and more than 30 shot and killed each day, half between the ages of 18 and 35, and a third under 20. These statistics were confirmed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Compare those numbers versus only 155 gun-related murders in England every year, where the gun laws are very strict. In the United States, 30% of people are gun owners, and it is estimated that there are 270 million guns here. According to the CDC, Massachusetts has the lowest rate in teenage suicide, and it is related to the fact that The state has the lowest number of adults and adults with children with loaded and unlocked household firearms compared to other states. The harm number two will be the military-style assault weapons are used by murderers to maximize the numbers of people killed. Example of this is, well, I have two examples. First one is James Holmes, the Aurora murderer, who was able to obtain an AR-15 Smith & Wesson assault rifle without any issues. He killed 12 people and wounded 58. He might be storing these weapons for money. My second example is Adam Lanza, the Newton shooter. He was able to get a military-style firearm through his mother. He murdered 26 people in a very short time. My plan is, based on this evidence and statistics, I strongly support the approval of the law that will add a universal background check and ban military-style assault weapons. The agent will be the government through the U.S. Congress, the agency, the legislative and executive branches of government. The enforcement will be the taxes coming from the people who wants to buy the guns. If he wants to buy the guns, he should pay more taxes than someone. The timeline within the next 12 months. Solvency. The new law will apply universal background checks on all guns purchases. In the US, about 40% of the firearms are buying without background checks because they are done through a federal license. They are not done through a federal licensed dealer. A universal background check will prevent a lot of purchases that otherwise would have gone unchecked. Therefore, reducing the number of purchases done through this loophole. The ban of military-style assault weapons will help reduce the number of victims of criminal and mentally ill people. Those weapons increases the number of bullets that can be shot without reloading, increasing the numbers of people that will get shot before police or help arrive. The advantage. It's likely that a lot of criminals or violent people are purchasing weapons through private transactions without background check. So passing the law will discourage these folks from obtaining firearms legally. Even though banning military-style weapons will not prevent criminal and mentally ill people from killing people, but it might reduce the number of murders before the police arrives or somebody is able to stop them. I'm done.
Are there any questions from the other team? Anything you're unclear about in terms of the plan or what you're trying to do?
No.
All right, you guys can use the prep time if you want. We're ready to go.
Just go.
No, I'm good, I'm good.
All right, let's hear it for the opposition.
Good morning, class. We're happy and excited to be presenting to you today what we hope will be an exciting debate. The resolution we are going to be engaged in is this: the U.S. government should strengthen gun laws. The more laws there are about a subject, the less freedom we have concerning that subject. There are many laws concerning guns, such as ownership of some models with certain capacities, even the number of bullets a cartridge can contain. These restrict freedoms and, more importantly, our safety. So when we say that government should strengthen our gun laws, we're opposed because we believe that this will increase quantitatively the number of laws and decrease our liberty and our safety. The biggest problem is the disrespect for human life entailed by programs that want to take our guns away. How does that disrespect the dignity of life? We will explain by presenting our positive case. Clearly, everyone has a right to life. Having rights entails the ability to secure those rights. Therefore, we have a right to secure and defend from attack our right to life. However, having firearms are the most effective way to protect yourself. So why then should we see any kind of ban or restriction on the thing that will protect us the most? We'd like to hear the answer to these questions from our opponents. The second problem is the blatant contradiction many of these gun laws stand in face of the Second Amendment, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So not only is our opponent's position immoral, it's also illegal. It should be that laws are to be eliminated that conflict with the Second Amendment, to the point where the Second Amendment is the only law on guns left. For the cleanup job, much of the responsibility is left up to the Supreme Court, since they are the ones that interpret the law and declare them constitutional or not. It's left to the people to enforce it, whether it be the commander-in-chief or the governor of each state. We find this to be an appealing solution because it respects the framers of the Constitution and their intent by strengthening the power of the Second Amendment and gives the people the right to defend themselves and their loved ones. We recognize that humans are valuable and so are worth defending. The primary strength of our plan is its simplicity. We all know how terrible and painstaking going through bureaucracy can be. By a show of hands, how many people hate going to the DMV? Exactly, you know? We all know the terrible ineffectiveness giving power to some indifferent man behind a glass can be. Yet you want to trust your immediate safety and defense over to that? No, don't do it. You have the first responsibility to protect yourself before anybody else does. By minimizing our gun laws, we are doing just that. We are putting your safety into your hands first, and this is what it comes down to, your safety. So who knows better? That's it.
So you have like 3 minutes left. So you want to take some questions?
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, we'll take questions.
Yeah, question.
Questions? Was it that sound?
Questions from the other team?
I have a question. What do you
Shoot.
plan on doing as far as protecting children in schools, since that's been the issue that has kind of caused us to look at this?
As far as protecting children in schools.
Well, when you arm people, you're less likely to get those kind of incidents. I mean, there
So
was
what are you saying, that people at school should be armed?
yeah, teachers, yeah.
Not
So
the students
no,
themselves, not
no. I mean,
children.
you're not gonna have a 5-year-old carrying a 22. That's a bit ridiculous. We're not suggesting that. But a teacher, I think, who is qualified should carry an arm, and that's what they do in Israel, where they're always being targeted. You'll see teachers carrying around rifles. And even when you have police, I mean, there was a police officer, I think, in Chicago about a month ago, and she stopped a potential shooting. But you don't hear that in the news. Why don't you? Can we get a phone check?
Someone said,
But yeah, no, we wouldn't want any students to be armed. Anybody that's well trained or qualified, we want them to go through training and understand basically what they're carrying. That it's not anything to be played with. You know?
I don't think that parents would be comfortable knowing that there's a gun in the classroom.
Knowing that there's someone to protect them from a shooter. I would be more worried to see like a gun-free zone sign on my child's school, knowing that there's no one there to protect them should there be a shooter like we had in Connecticut. That worries me. But to know that there's maybe 1 in 5 teachers who's armed in a school of about 20, that means you have 5 people.
I don't see parents being comfortable with that.
Well, it's not that it has to. You don't have to be comfortable with it. I mean, I'm not comfortable with it either, because that entails that we're actually preparing for the worst, and that is something to be uncomfortable about. That you do have to watch out for these kind of, I don't want to call them lunatics, but lunatics. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable, but we see it as a necessity.
I'd agree with him, basically saying that it's not something that you're going to want to feel comfortable about. That you're not going to be. You don't want to think about in any time, you know. But it's preparing for a worst case scenario. So, in the event that something does happen, wouldn't you be happier in the end that you do have that defense?
I think it would be more efficient and professional to have police officers at the school, like at least one, versus teachers who are not qualified to, you know.
all right, and that's time. Concerns? You guys
Back to you.
want some preparation time? All right, start your preparation now.
Yeah. So they said it's going to help reduce the number of gun-related crime. Okay, well, yeah, if you ban guns, of course, gun-related crime is going to go down. But do you want to know which ones is crimes generally going to go down? And they didn't specify that. So it's they're kind of looking at a bias sample there, and they're going to say that. Well,
Oh, all right. Let's hear from member
Okay, thank you opposition team for saying your ideas. And we are still with the strengthening the gun laws because you did say that it would decrease our liberty and safety since guns protect the lives the most. And that may be true, but is it really worth tens of thousands of people dying yearly due to gun-related crimes? They could be reduced if the guns were stricter on making sure who has them, because you think that everyone should have a gun. But first of all, the Constitution was really leading towards a militia, protecting against the government goes like broad. We need to be able to protect ourselves. That's really what they were going towards. Not really like everyone should have a gun to protect themselves from criminals. Because 70 again with the a study shows that the United States more than 30,000 people are killed by firearms each year, and more than 30 are shot and killed each day. So I don't think that's worth having the risk of having everyone have a gun, since handguns are 74% cause of homicides in the United States. You also didn't say about background checks. I don't remember hearing anything about background checks, but they should be really strict because it does depend who owns the guns. And I mean, the reason why would be to protect themselves, which makes sense. But I don't really think that everyone should have a gun. And if you think that should have them at schools, that shouldn't be at schools because they have access to kids. You know, kids, you can't control every single 30 kids or so that you have in your classroom. You don't know what they get into. That can be really dangerous. And I agree that it could be like security guards at schools, like she mentioned. But the new gun laws in the long term will hopefully reduce statistics discussed, and it will reduce the number of murders committed by criminals and mentally ill people. Because if you still think that everyone should own a gun, that includes ill people, that will be more easy for them to obtain guns. And banning guns will also make reasonable limits on gun ownership. By reinforcing stricter gun control, like making background checks and saying who can and who's eligible to have a gun. And keeping guns out of the wrong hands does not violate Second Amendment, but it will help to save our lives. And does anyone have any questions?
I just have a comment. I think I agree with you that everybody shouldn't have guns, especially with all the pedophile teachers that are harassing our kids and abusing our kids. I would hate to see a gun in the hand of someone like that.
Yeah, that would just be easier for everyone to make crimes or use them the wrong way.
But like, how do you judge if someone's fit to have a gun? Like one day, like what did it snap?
That's why, like my partner mentioned, like worldwide background checks, and
I mean,
really
if there's no background and then they just like snap one day, like, you know, they're a cool person, maybe a police officer or something goes on in their life.
Yeah, that's true, but it would still be less chance of someone doing that than if every single person was able to get one. It's still, I mean, we can't control every single person to not make a crime. That's impossible, you know? Kind of like the war on drugs. It's impossible to control every single person, but the stricter you are with the laws, the more you can minimize.
But how can you say that one person who say maybe went to jail and they were in violence and stuff, how can they not change just like the person who's doing regular dating sessions?
That's a good point. but I don't know. Huh? Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's not just background checks like your criminal records. It can be anything, like passing certain tests or something. That just adds to the whole testing of who can obtain a gun and who can't.
You mentioned restricting gun laws. Is that also including banning the high capacity magazines? Because I think that's like the biggest problem with all the shootings that have happened. That
The rifle guns? Or is that what you're?
it's a detachable device that is added to the guns that makes it more powerful, and that's why, like mostly all the shooters that have taken place, that's why there's been so many people.
Yeah, there are a lot, but
Yeah.
statistics that we got shows that those are not as. That only makes up 4% of the homicides. The handguns make up 74. So that's really what we should be restricting on more than the rifles.
You can be done if you want.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so this was their opening. I might have time to even rebut their rebuttal. Pull this thing. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so take notes, okay. Okay. I'm gonna need
All right, cool. Let's do free and remember about
Hello. Okay, so in their opening speech, they've said, government has said, that reducing or banning guns or restricting guns will reduce the number of gun-related crime. And we find that we're not opposed to that. Of course, if you get rid of guns, gun violence will go down. But what we want to know, and which they did not specify, and we didn't hear anything about this, is whether crime in general will go down. We find that that's not the case. For example, Mexico, they have 18.1 homicides per 100,000 people, and they have a very strict gun control in Mexico. Rape, for example, is more likely in Australia, Sweden, New Zealand, and Austria, with 90 rapes per 100,000 people, and the U.S. only has 30. You are more likely to be robbed in Belgium, Spain, Mexico, Chile, Portugal, France, England, and Wales than in the U.S. And assaults are also more likely to happen in Scotland, which is kind of random, Sweden, England, and Wales, Belgium, than in the United States. So what you see in countries, especially in European countries that have high gun control, you actually see crime being more likely to go up than in the United States. Their gun crime, yeah, will go down because there's not a lot of guns around to be committed with. But crime in general is on the rise. So while I mean, I think the phrase is straining in a gnat at swallowing a camel or something like that. So we don't find that point too persuasive. Now, they also said that they want to punish people trying to illegally obtain guns, but we find that just to be kind of a truism, it's a tautology. Of course, you're going to punish people who are trying to do something illegally, so we don't think much was said there. They also said thousands of people died to gun-related deaths, but is that bad? For example, gun-related deaths might be, for example, if I'm a Quickie Mart owner, I know Quickie Mart's not a real place, but I watch a lot of Simpsons, like Quickie Mart owner, and Eric tries to rob me, and I shoot him, that's justice, because he tried to kill me. So while that's a gun-related death, that wasn't exactly a bad thing. They also mentioned England. In 1997, England did ban handguns, but we actually found contrary evidence from, and they didn't specify the years, but there was a 9-year study from 1998, that was the year after the UK banned guns, to 2005. Crime in general went up 340%. Another really important point that they brought was that they said they wanted to ban military assault-style weapons, and I would like to know what that means. And they said that the shooting in Connecticut used a military assault-style weapon, but that's not true. A semi-automatic was used. A military assault-style weapon is a machine gun, and what that means is so long as you keep your finger down, the trigger bullets will keep spraying out. Semi-automatic means that you only get 1 bullet per trigger pull. That's not military assault-style weapon. So I think there's a bit of a fear tactic there being played, and I don't think that should go through. How much time do I have left?
2.5.
Okay, so in the rebuttal, they said something really weird. They said, "Is it worth?" Yeah, like I said, they said, "We understand you want to be safe, but is it worth the safety of others?" And that's kind of a contradiction in terms. Was it worth the safety to be safe? We think there's an incoherence there. They also we brought up the Second Amendment, which read, what exactly? I done this down. There it is. Which read, a well-regulated militia being necessary to blah blah blah. Okay, so they brought up the militia part. They said that it's just for the militia, but we pose this question: well, what do you think militia means? It's not military. Okay, hold on. Where's my backpack? I have the Constitution in my backpack. I'm sorry.
Here.
The word militia is, you don't only find it in the Second Amendment. You find it in Article 1, Section 8. And it says that Congress shall have power to, and it lists a whole bunch of things, and then it says to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, and to provide for calling forth the militia and execute the laws of the Union. So what's happening there is that they have the right to raise an army and a navy. But to call forth a militia, that means that the militia is already a pre-existing notion prior to the existence of any government. So basically, the Supreme Court defined militia as basically any able-bodied person. They are eligible for a draft. So we don't think militia is limited to military. I think that's an equivocation. Militia just means any able-bodied person who is able to carry a gun. And a lot of people back in the 1700s had guns. So we don't find that rebuttal too persuasive either. And one last thing that I noticed lacking in their rebuttal was that they didn't answer our primary argument, which was the moral argument, which is that you have the right to a gun because you have a right to life. Having a right means you have a claim to something. So if you have a right to life, you have a right to defend yourself from any threat. So that means weapons in general. Females are generally not as strong as males, and so they need an equalizer. They need a weapon. Now, there is a strong presumption for a gun when you say you have a right to bear an arm, and not just firearms. And we think that is because a gun can discriminate. A bomb and a grenade cannot discriminate. With a gun, you can point and shoot at a very specific target. And so that way you are keeping other people safe, so long as you're accurate. All right. Thank you.
All right. So we have some preparation time. We have closing statements.
Yes. All right. Good job. Let's clap this way. Okay. Going through all this pretty much. What's that? Yeah. I mean, you could take this with you if you like. And that's the most important.
Well, you already mentioned that too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you want to summarize it all. So you need to mention that. So just say we gave 2 reasons why they said. Well, not why they said, but I mean, you could say. So just say, so you might want to write this down. Because we're up next, so this is our time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we gave 2 reasons. The moral argument for the right to life, and the Second Amendment argument. They didn't answer the moral argument, so that point is completely ceded to us. We've been
Yeah.
And they said, okay, so do a dash right here. And then they said that the Second Amendment's only regulated to a militia. But we respond to that by saying that militia is just any able-bodied person.
Yeah.
So we did not point.
So basically, they pretty much confirmed what we meant. So they're basically confirming what we're saying.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, if we say no, because no one's regulated to any militia.
Yeah, just for those 2 reasons we think we're winning. They didn't answer. And they also said, so that's our positive case. And then so as far as they're concerned, they thought, or they said that they would reduce gun violence, but we showed how irrelevant that is because it doesn't show violence in general. Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking from there.
Yeah. And that's busy. Okay.
Your opposition.
All right, so I'd just like to thank them one more time again for taking the time to do this debate. They had, a lot of good information there. However, as Adrian had mentioned, their moral argument, our moral argument or question, they didn't really answer that. So, I'd still like to hear what their response would be if they'd like to take the time. And the Second Amendment issue, how they mentioned that it should be regulated to strictly the militia, being us, so it kind of just confirmed our original argument. So, they pretty much assisted us right there. But, as far as the new laws, as we stated, we'd like to just keep it pretty much to the Second Amendment and be that cover all. We're not going to be arming students, obviously, as we mentioned from the previous question, but we would like to keep it regulated to people that are, trained and able-bodied, our militia, and we shouldn't have to lay down any major restrictions on it because that would only further the crime in general. As mentioned before, crime rates with guns, yes, will decrease. Because there's not going to be the guns out there to be doing that. But what about crime in general? It's going to be going up. It's going to be escalating. There's going to be other ways in which it'll happen and occur. So, but yeah, that's essentially it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Any last questions then?
Sorry, yeah, I'll take a question.
All right.
All right, so you guys still have some time for your 2-minute closing argument.
Your Constitution, sir.
Thank you.
These are both yours.
It's a copy too. Whatever. We're done. We're done.
No, we're done.
That's true.
30 seconds of prep time left. All right, let's hear from the Prime Minister. Closing argument.
Okay. Responding to your report regarding the statistics in Europe, I have to mention that it could be that the US is just a little bit more appropriate compared to these European countries. And regarding Mexico, you cannot compare US with Mexico because Mexico, it's, the high rate in crime, it's right ahead because of the cartels and what's going on with it.
Yeah. That was exactly your point. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I don't think having people live thinking that you're gonna be attacked anytime. How can you carry a gun with you 24/7, thinking somebody's gonna shoot me, somebody's robbing me, somebody's gonna assault me? That's not the kind of living you want for yourself, for your family, for your kids. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, but the point is that you have it and never have to use it, then not have it and then have to use it.
Yeah, but if I go back, let's say, and I carry a gun, and there is a guy there, and he's drunk, or he's just, start battering, and then he lost control. Let's say he has a violent behavior. He gets his gun out and starts shooting. Am I going to start shooting again, shooting back? So we all want to start shooting?
Yeah, because then he presents. A danger. If he's drunk and he's armed, then he presents a danger to all of society, and he needs to be taken out. And so then it solves its own problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a question. So.
No, I'm sorry. It's just.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just go.
I'm really pro to this law because I don't think people should carry a gun all the time because it's not kind of like we want for ourselves and for our family. How can you have peace of mind having a gun with you? Like if you can walk, you can go anywhere. You can even talk to your neighbor. Okay. I'm gonna just end this debate saying that more gun control is absolutely necessary in today's society. New gun laws in the long term will hopefully reduce the statistics discussed, and it will reduce the number of murders committed by criminals and mentally ill people. We'll also make reasonable limits on gun ownership by enforcing a stricter gun control. Keeping guns out of the wrong hands does not violate the Second Amendment, but it might help to save lives. The government job is to protect the general welfare of the people, and keeping people from killing each other is a big part of that. I don't think people should carry a gun all the time. I think that they might have to defend themselves using it. It will not be a peaceful living. It will not be a peaceful life living without thought.
Cool, great job. We're going to go ahead and set up the next debate, and while we're doing that, we'll let the judges talk amongst themselves and make their decision. Just looking around, I don't think there are any other debates. Right? So we have 3. We'll probably need one team today to be willing to debate twice so that everybody has someone to debate. So we'll take volunteers for that if anyone's interested. It could also be somebody who debated last time, but I imagine that you'd probably rather debate twice. If you debate twice today to help out another team, you get 10 points.
No.
Anyone jumping on it?
Let's do it.
No, I'm sure.
Okay.
You don't get to choose which side you're on either. Oh, Rachel's here. Okay, so actually all we need is one person to debate with Rachel rather than a whole other team. So, are you still down, Claire? Maybe. All right. We can figure it out. We'll do another debate, then we'll take a break, and we'll figure that out during the break. Okay, so we'll let them discuss. For now, we'll go to the next debate. We'll do Joshua and Jana. versus Bobby and Patsy. So let's go ahead and flip a coin for that one. And we'll let Bobby call it in the air, heads or tails.
Tails.
And it's heads, so you guys get to choose whether you want to be government or opposition. Tough decisions.
Opposition.
All right, they're going for op. And we got, oh, sorry, wrong way. And Josh and John out. Cool. So they're still working on their decision. We'll give them another minute. Keep in mind the opportunity for one individual to debate again and earn 10 extra points is still open, but you can let me know when we take a break.
Make it 20.
20
sounds good.
You want to take that opportunity? All right. So you guys will want to, well, you can pay attention to what he's working with too, but then you guys can strategize over the break. I'll give you guys, I'll assign you a side before we take a break. That way you can figure that out.
Goodness gracious. I want to do that.
All right, you guys about ready with your decision?
Yeah.
Cool, let's hear it.
Okay, well, we chose the opposition, not because of the plan, because we found that the government's plan in general was better and more sound, but because of the rebuttals that they were able to give and the fallacies that they kind of found. So like the definition of militia we thought was a little bit misinterpreted from the government. And we also thought that it was really smart to mention the crime rates in other countries, and she also had mentioned that it's uncomparable, but most of those countries are pretty comparable to the US. And there was also probably one of the most selling points was that the reasons why people were dying from gun-related deaths was not explained. And they explained that, you know, someone could die protecting themselves from a gun, and that was that percentage was not addressed from the government case.
Well, those are pretty solid reasons for your decision. Did you feel like it was still a pretty close debate?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
thought so too.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's always a challenge when the member of opposition brings a lot of new arguments. I think it would have been better if those came out in the first speech, of course. But I think she did a really good job trying to respond to all of that in just a couple of minutes at the end too. So I want to commend the government team on really trying to step up to some really tough arguments that were made in the member speech. Cool. So great job, you guys.
I have a question.
Very good for first debate. Yeah.
Is the written opposition and government that we turn into you, is that the only text we're supposed to be using while we are presenting? Because I don't know if he was getting statistics off the web or if that was his notes.
No,
Yeah,
I had
it
it
in docs.
Yeah, I had it prepared.
Oh, okay.
So.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, you can bring up other documents, other sources, and things like that with you. The case is just something to work from.
Okay.
So obviously I'm grading that, but what you actually present might end up being a little bit different based on how you're adapting in the debate. Cool. So Colleen and Blanca, if you guys are down to be, did I get your name right?
Sorry?
Yeah, okay. You guys are going to judge the second debate, so get ready.
Yeah, we did.
All right, you guys can come on up.
That's something I'm turning in. It's just this.
Yeah, did you turn that in?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, then we're good.
And just to make sure it's clear, Joshua, I'm grading you on this debate.